Hello everyone and welcome back again to my YouTube channel. This is Star with Chika, and in today's video I am going to be showing you guys how to go about the making of this bodycon top I have on. I got this inspiration from Pinterest and this is my recreation. So if this is something you're interested in, keep on watching, and if you're still yet to subscribe to the channel, please hit on that subscribe button and don't forget to turn on your post notification bell so you become one of the first to get notified whenever I upload a new video, and let's get started. This is the material I will be using to recreate this style. For this, you just need about 1 yard of material. So initially, I wanted to use this material that I have here to sew a gown. You can see that this is the neckline and this was meant to be for the sleeves. So I'm recreating this into a top after seeing this style on Pinterest. So I'll be drafting the pattern on my pattern paper, and then I'll be using the pattern paper to cut out on my material. So this is something that you can use old pieces of clothing around your house. So far it's stretchy to recreate this style, or you can just go directly to buy 1 yard of any stretchy material. I think this one is called lycra and it would turn out perfectly. So let's continue. I'm going to be cutting the back pattern before cutting out the front pattern. Two things are going to be involved while we're drafting this pattern. The first is that we are not going to be adding any sewing allowance because it's a stretchy material. Any other allowance will make these boogers. Also, you can see the way the material stretches. So to give that bodycon effect, which is the effect that makes the clothes to grasp on our body, we are going to be reducing our body's measurements, and I'll show you just how. First, I'm going to draft the pattern. So I'll be drawing a straight line. This straight line is going to be my shoulder line. On this line, take your shoulder measurement and divide it by 2. Mine is 8. I'm coming in by 1 inch because I want this to not be so wide. From this point, I'll create my shoulder slope by going down by 1 inch at this point. I'll connect upward. So to connect upward, you need your standard neckline measurements. My standard neckline measurement is 3 inches. If you're on the bigger side, you can use 3.5 inches, just like I've marked mine. And then I'm just going to connect this to give us our shoulder slope. Next, I'll mark out my armhole line, which is my armhole measurement divided by 2, or my bust measurement divided by 6 plus 1.5. I'll leave a mark at that point. Mine is 7.6. I'll mark out my bust line, which is at 11 inches. Then I'll mark out my full length of this top at 18 inches, which is also my waist measurement. And I'll draw lines across these points. From this point, I'm going to add 5 inches of extra allowance. This is because the side of this top has a gather-like effect. Next, I'm going to take my bust measurement divided by 4 and I'll mark it out on my armhole line. So like I said, this material is a stretchy one. So to increase the stretch and the bodycon effect, after dividing your bust measurement by 4, you are going to take that measurement you have now and you're going to minus 1.5 inches from it. This is to increase the stretch of the material, giving us the bodycon effect. So I'll take my bust measurement divided by 4 and I'll minus 1.5 inches and mark it on this line. If this is going to get you confused, after marking out your bust measurement divided by 4, just come in again by 1.5 inches if the subtraction is going to get you confused. And that's the same thing I am doing to my waistline now and my full length line. I'll be marking my waist measurement on my full length line and I'll be marking my waist measurement on the added 5 inches allowance line. So now I'm dividing my waist measurements by 4. And after dividing my waist measurement by 4, I'm removing 1.5 inches and I'll mark that out on my waistline and on the added 5 inches allowance line. I will use my ruler to connect this all the way up. I do hope you understand this explanation. So after connecting all the way up, I am going to create my armhole curve. To create my armhole curve, I will connect with the line downward from my shoulder slope just as you see me doing. To get my armhole curve, I'm going to get the midpoint of this new line I have just created. Once I get the midpoint, I'll come in by half of an inch on that point. From the midpoint, I'll connect to my shoulder slope. And from my midpoint again, I'll also connect to my armhole line. So after I'm done with this part, I just want to work on the neckline. For the neckline, I am coming down by 1 inch and I'll be making use of my ruler to connect with a curve. You can actually do this with your free hand, and after that you can just cut it out. I am going to be making use of my back pattern to cut out my front pattern, so I'll just label this back. I have another pattern paper here for my front and I'll be using my back to cut it out. So first, I just need you to understand this style. You can see where the front starts from, which is just above the breast point, okay? So what I need you to do is to measure from your shoulder to that point on your body. Mine is about 7 inches. So I'm going to take that 7 inches now. I'll place it on the shoulder and I'll measure 7 inches down. From that point, I am going to fold this pattern paper just like you can see me doing. And once I fold it, I'll place it directly on the new pattern paper which I have here. And all I'm going to do is to trace it out. I'll use my scissors and cut through this point all around. So to cut out these patterns, I have folded my material into two. I'll be cutting out my back piece first. So now I'm just placing my back piece on top of the material that I have folded. And because the side of the top has a gather-like effect, I'm going to be adding an extra allowance to the length of this top. So I'm going to be adding just about 3 inches because my pattern paper was not enough to carry this allowance. So I'm adding just about 3 inches. You can add as much as would be enough for you. So now that you see me do that, I'm just going to go ahead and cut out the neckline also, and I will also cut through the shoulder. And this is basically what I have for the transferring of the pattern to the material. For my front piece, I've folded my material again into two. So now that I've folded into two, I'm just going to take the pattern and I'll place it directly on top of the material again. Just like I did to the back, I will add 3 inches allowance to the length of this top. 3 inches allowance, and then I will cut through it. When I get to the top part of the top, which is the chest line area, I will add 4 inches extra allowance, which is going to serve as a hemming for the top part. So do not get confused. At the top part, it is 4 inches allowance. Now I am just folding this 4 inches allowance directly to my pattern paper, and then I am cutting through it just like you've seen me do here. After that, I'm going to leave a notch at where my pattern paper starts. I'll leave a notch at that point as an indication of the starting point of the front neckline. So to cut out the strap-like effect you can see on the top, I am just taping my back pattern and my front pattern which I have cut out earlier together. After taping this point, at my shoulder line here, I am coming out by 3.5 inches. Then from my armhole line of my back piece, I'm coming down by 2 inches. After making these two marks, I will be using my ruler to connect them together with a curve like this. Then at this point here, I'm going to come down by 2 inches again and I'll connect that point to meet the other part of my shoulder line. I will use my curve again to connect it together. Then I will just cut it out. So while cutting this out, I'll explain to you that my strap was wider than the initial inspiration because I needed my strap to cover my bra line. So just in case you do not want your strap to be as wide as mine, at your shoulder line you can take about 2 inches. So this is what I have. Now I have made use of this pattern already to cut out my material pieces which you can see here. I cut out 4 pieces of this and I will just be turning this inside out. You can see that I left half inch of allowance all around. So now I'm just going to be turning this inside out by sewing on both sides of these pieces. I'll sew left and right, just like you can see me demonstrating left and right, and I'll leave the top and the bottom open. After I've done that, this is what I have mine looking like. I sewed on both sides and turned them inside out. Do the same to yours and then give this a very good press. So now I am going to work on the neckline of the back piece. I have cut out a material which is just 1 inch by width for the neckline of the back piece. I'll be using this material as a bias. So just like you sew with your bias, that's what I'm going to do with this material. I'm going to be turning it to the right side. So you're going to take the right side of this material and then you're going to place it on the back side of the neckline. Okay, so place it right side to back side. So just like you can see me demonstrating now, you just need to place this right on top of it and then you can sew on it on 1/4 inch. After sewing on it on 1/4 inch, this is what I have. So I need to understand that some machines will not be able to sew on this kind of stretchy material. So all you have to do is to place a paper right on top of it while sewing, just like I've done to mine like this. So machines can actually sew on it, so you can just test to see if your machine can before trying out. Formerly, my machine used to sew on it, but then it stopped. So this is the only stress you may encounter while sewing this particular style. After I've done this now, I'm just going to finish up the neckline. First off, I'm going to cut out the excess allowance that I have here. To finish up the neckline, you want to take your material, your bias material, you're going to fold it once, just like a bias normally is, and then fold it right on top of this material again. And just like your bias, you are going to stitch as closely as possible to the edge of the material to make this neat. And after I've done that, this is what mine looks like. I'm just going to go ahead and give this a very good press. After working on the neckline of the back piece, I just went ahead to fold in the length. I hemmed this in by 1 inch. I did this to the front and the back piece. While I was sewing, I was stretching this out. This is because if you're not doing this way, the thread will end up cutting when you are putting this on. After that, I'm just going to work on the armhole. For the armhole, I will just hem it in also. I'll fold it in by very little allowance, just like I've showed you guys here. After that, I'm going to attach the straps which I've created earlier to the shoulders. Once I did that, this is what it ended up looking like. I did that to both sides and I will give this a very good press. So for my front piece, I have a notch here. This notch is my chest line. So I'll measure from my first notch to my second notch. My second notch is my full length of my top. The space I have here is 12.5. That means I'll gather the side of this top to 12.5 inches. I'm going to be making use of my needle and thread for these gathers. Okay, so just in case you're confused about the second notch, I'll go over it again that it is the full length of this top without any added allowance. The full length of the top without any added allowance, that is the second notch. So I just measured the space in between and I am gathering the side of this top to that measurement. So after gathering it like this, I will just continue to use my tape to make sure that the measurements that I have is accurate. Measurement that I have was 12.5. So I'm going to gather this to 12.5. I'll do the same thing for the other side and I'll do the same thing for the back as well. So after gathering my back piece, this is what I have. I will attach my strap to the side by just placing it directly on top. Whatever I do to the right, I will do to the left. So after that, I will take my front piece now and the 4 inches that I added earlier for the hem, I will just fold it in like this towards the back, just like you can see. Now I will place the front directly on top of the back. So what I'm doing here is just arranging the gathers so that one side does not gather more than the other. And after I have arranged this right on top of each other, I would then sew on both sides. So guys, after sewing on the sides of this top, this is what I had and I just went ahead to try it on. After trying it on, I found out that the straps were too long. So I adjusted them to be shorter to fit my measurements. This is all I have for this top. It turned out very beautiful after giving this a good press. If you found this tutorial very helpful, do not leave a like and a comment and I'll be seeing you in my next one.